Everyone, I'm Todd Wayne. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Podcast, home for all things paranormal supernatural. A Paranomaly is a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, supernatural, and metaphysical. Join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcast is made available. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Thank you again for watching or listening. So grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. Hey, everybody. So, Jim, it's very good to see you here. And Drew, it's an honor and a pleasure for you to come on last minute. I appreciate it so much.
No worries. I had the time open, so I just go with the flow of the universe, and it's just when something happens like that, it's like, okay, one of your listeners at least are supposed to hear what I got to say. So let's do it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your service to our country too.
Yeah, I'm doing the real service now. I mean, that other stuff was just preparing me for my real calling, and being this mirror. I'm considered a lot of things, but mainly I just consider myself a mirror for humanity. The more I open up and learn things, I like to share them with as many people as possible. So maybe it might wake them up and have their own experience, and that's ultimately why I'm here, man. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm thank you for having this program and inviting me on and opening up this time and space to hopefully reach a few people, and so they can really open themselves up to become a better human being.
Absolutely. Now, Drew, tell us a bit about yourself. I know that you've been in the military, things like that. Give us a little bit about yourself.
So I start off from the beginning. I was adopted at 5 days old. So the first 5 days of my life, I was Joshua Brandon Robinson, and not a whole lot of people know that. I've recently just started sharing that. It's kind of something I even forgot about, but the energetic implications of my life is just, I guess from the beginning, I've constantly been evolving and becoming a different person all the time. And that's just been, that started from birth. I've adopted, didn't find out I was adopted till I was 18. That was a huge thing for me, huge trauma. Went to the Army in 19, come out of that in the reserves, still active, still belonging in the reserves, but went to the police academy, become a police officer. I was a police officer for 3 years, and 9/11 happened while I was a police officer. So 2005 came about, and I was still in my Army Reserve unit. They had been activated and shut down 2 or 3 times to deploy to Iraq. And something in me just needed to experience that. So I went active duty. And one of the things that I asked for when I went active duty was for me to go to Iraq. And boy, I found my boots on the ground in Baghdad like 6 weeks after that initial conversation with the recruiter. And it all happened really fast. And, hauled around dignitaries, things like that in Baghdad, high-ranking officials and celebrities that come in. We're basically like an armored taxi. So we would pick them up from the airport and take them wherever they needed to go. But lots of times it was through, downtown Baghdad and some of the most harshest areas. And didn't see a whole lot of combat, hit with a few IEDs, things like that. Um, then come back to home January 2006. Went to Special Forces training. I think it was like April that year. Went through the first phase, didn't get selected, so I didn't get selected to continue through the training. Um, and then end up going back to Iraq again, uh, January 2007. So in the States just a year, and did a lot of training and stuff during all that. But the second deployment was totally different. It was Western Iraq. It was west of Fallujah, so that whole Western Iraq area is a very volatile area. In 2007, it was actually the worst area. Serious combat every day from the unit that we took over for, and it was no different for us when we first got there. I think it was like the first 5 or 6 months that we were there, it was just constant battles. But for my whole unit, and it was a whole brigade unit, so it had over like 1,000 people. But we were attached to Marine Expeditionary Force 1 and 2, and we did missions with Navy SEALs and all types of other special operations units, include CIA, hunting down bomb making factories and IED VBID making factories, so vehicle borne IED factories. So we were basically backing up and providing security for these special forces units that were raiding these big factories and stuff. Pretty crazy stuff. But spent 15 months over there that second deployment, and come back with and went through a divorce while I was there. Second deployment. Mother of my first 2 kids, my oldest kids, which now are 20 and 18. So, but yeah, it was hard. A lot of stuff going on. Not just the trauma of that, but it was just the divorce was really hard on me, and being separated from my kids, that was really hard on me too. So, got out in 2009 from a back surgery. Had a non-malignant tumor that was removed out of my back. They had to separate muscle tissue. Long story short, my back didn't ever heal correctly, so I got out on a military discharge and medical discharge. And yeah, from 2009 to 2014, a lot of depression, drug use, alcohol use, just ups and downs of life. And um, 2014, it was a suicide attempt, and a failed suicide attempt. Woke up in the ER after being asleep for 28 hours. I took over 200 Xanax, snorted a bunch of cocaine trying to stop my heart, and woke up in the ER after a suicide attempt. And just uh, that started that actually got me diagnosed with PTSD. That got the attention of the VA. The VA got a hold of me. Went to the VA hospital and got diagnosed and everything. That was the first time I got diagnosed with PTSD. They're like, of course, like you've seen that, over 2 years of combat, and a lot of things happened during that time frame. So yeah, from 2014 to 2016 was going through the VA program, which was a lot of medications, talk therapy, uh, just a lot of things that didn't work. I never got a lot. I never vied with any of my therapists or anything. And 2016 come about, and I was deteriorating mentally, emotionally, and everything. And I felt that suicide knocking on the door again. And about that time, in conversation, another veteran friend of mine spoke about ayahuasca and how he did ayahuasca, went down in Peru, did a couple of ceremonies ayahuasca, changed his life, blah blah blah. And that was the seed that started for me to eventually find a ceremony. So a couple months after I first heard the word ayahuasca, I was setting in my first ayahuasca ceremony, and not for a spiritual optimization or anything like that. I get asked this all the time, like, what was your spiritual aspect going into your first ceremony? I knew of something bigger was at work, but I didn't care who it was. I didn't care to engage in it. I just didn't care. I just knew there was something larger. I didn't know the name of it or anything. Like, but I had no desire to even, be anywhere involved with it. And I would
Drew, I don't mean to interrupt you, Drew. But what is ayahuasca? What is that?
I so ayahuasca has become very popular, especially over the past couple of years. A lot of celebrities doing it, but it's a mixture of two plants that is primarily found in South America, and it's Mysterious capi, which is the ayahuasca vine, and that contains a MOAI inhibitor. And this is there's a lot of different blends, but this is the traditional blend, or not traditional blend, but the most widely known blend, which is Mysterious capi, which is the one plant, the vine, and the other plant that is most commonly used is chacruna, and that contains 4-N dimethyltryptamine. And when cooked together in a brew, both those plants at certain ratios, you know, different ways of cooking have different ratios for how much of each plant's in there. But it'd be cooked for 3 to 4 days. They do washes, what they call like they're filling it up with water and they're cook it all day. At the end of that day, they're draining it off with water, and then they will put new water in it and do the whole process again. So that's what they call washes of when they cook ayahuasca. So they do 2 to 3 of those over a 3 to 4 day span, depending on the lineage and tradition. There's many different traditions that cook ayahuascas, and they all tend to be slightly different. But yeah, that's just the basis of it, and then that's all cooked down to basically a thicker drink that's ingested through drinking in ceremony, and coupled with ancient songs and vibrations. Certain vibrations induce different things, and um, yeah, it induces a transcendental state where you kind of go outside your body. And a lot of people report that they feel like they're dying, and afterwards they attribute it to like an ego death. But almost everyone, it doesn't matter how much you even look into it, or even how many times you've done it. Like lots of times ayahuasca will give you, when you need to see it, is something like what it would be like to die, but then to come back, and that's what they call it, the vine of the dead, or things like that. But it's done in a lot of different traditions. Shipibo tradition is widely known down in Peru. It's also done in Brazil and other parts of South America, all the way up into Mexico. And there's multiple churches now in the United States that are doing it under the Religious Freedom Act, and that's ultimately what our church operates under, the Religious Freedom Act. And we have statement of beliefs. We have a couple lawyers that help us write paperwork up, and yeah, we're trying to forge a way in this new psychedelic church or retreat center realm. It's kind of Wild West, and we're kind of forming it as we go. There's no really blueprint because it's really not done here in the States that much. So every place is different, but yeah, so that's what we're doing here.
So what is it exactly? Is it like a reboot for yourself?
Well, it's a visionary state that you are semi disassociated or totally disassociated with your ego self that you're in right now. So you're going to a quantum field where sometimes you even forget who you are while you're in that visionary state. And some people call it hallucinations, but for me, there is no hallucination. It's all a vision of some type, and it's all a message of some type. um I attribute it to, dogs can hear different frequencies that we can't hear. Ayahuasca opens you up. Okay, dogs hear frequencies and sounds that we can't hear. They're out of a range that we can hear, but that doesn't mean they're not present. We just can't pick them up. And what we're seeing with our human selves, our human senses, our eyes, our nose, and all our senses, we're seeing a small part of the spectrum of what we can smell, what we can see, what we can hear. All these different senses include the senses that we don't even know about, like our sixth sense, our tingly, our spidey sense. These are all like real senses, but we're only experiencing a very small portion of what's actually happening on all those different scales. So there's tons of different noises that are happening that we're not hearing. There are tons of different things, fractals of light that are bending fractals of light that we're not seeing, that are around us all the time. And ayahuasca simply raises us to a vibration past our normal human self so we can experience that. And that's very simply, there's the it'd be a couple hour explanation if I to go full into it, but that's pretty good synopsis. But
No,
it's pretty popular. There's a ton of information out there, and we work with a bunch of other medicines too, but that's just
now,
one of them. That's
understandably, you were in a ton of stress because of the war. So you're taking this to help with the PTSD, correct? And other different things going on in your brain that um
yeah. So it was, very simply, it was I s- everything that I was reading about it. I was reading article after article, you know, YouTube video after YouTube video of all these veterans that had went down, drank the medicine, uh, drank ayahuasca, and it helped them. And some of the people that I know, like personally, that number started was growing once I started asking around about it. Other people had known about it. Other people had done it that I didn't even know had done it, and all I was hearing, it was helping. So I was at, very cut and dry. I was at the end of my rope, and I was willing to do anything. Everything that was being given to me at that time wasn't working, and I felt helpless. The BA wasn't helping me after 2.5 years, over 2 years, and I felt like I was about to kill myself again. And very simply, I was at the end of my rope, and ayahuasca stepped in and as the divine mother she is, and come at the right moment. But um I guess my point with that, I why I'd say all that, like the whole spiritual aspect of this was something I didn't know I was signing up for. It was just something that was thrust onto me, and after seeing it, you can't once you see it, you can't unsee it. And um I was totally interested. And um my second ceremony, I spoke to the spirit that I could come back and remember and articulate, and I can still remember just to this day, like every single part of that encounter. And that forever changed my life. And went back the next weekend and did number 3 ceremony with ayahuasca during daytime, and blew my mind wide open. I went into it with I asked why I was here on earth, and I was showed a vibration coming from the sky, going into my head, going through my body, and the universe was going to use my vocal cords to speak and transmit and help humanity in this time. And I was asked if I would be willing to take part in that, like not give up my life or my body or anything like that, but when in certain times when the time was right, to be a voice of a vibration that most people have forgotten to hear, forgotten telepathy. And it had to bring it down back into a way that was communicable. And that was through not just me, but other people as well. I mean, I think when we're speaking truth, I think we're speaking for the universe. So,
Yeah, very interesting. Jim and I was talking about um, very similar things not long ago about having your mind in an altered state and being able to communicate
And
like
definitely
a abduct, well,
have
not
access.
abductee, but a contactee.
Yeah, I mean it's really something, that there are substances that can give you direct access to that. Like there's so many things, in paranormal investigation where we're trying to sort of obtain, information and truths about certain things, but psychedelics are so unique in that, you know, you're just getting direct access and direct, sometimes meaningful, in-depth communication, you know, with intelligences on the other side. Did you, Drew, like encounter anthropomorphs generally, the humanoid figures that have animal heads and different entities like that, or is that something that you would have happen to you during ayahuasca ceremonies?
Um, maybe not that. I've encountered grays during ceremonies, but not with ayahuasca, but with this another psychedelic. It's actually yopo, which is actually a more powerful psychedelic. That's 5-MeO dimethyltryptamine. So ayahuasca's primary hallucinate psychedelic compound is 4-NN dimethyltryptamine, which we make in our own bodies. That's the same DMT that we make in our bodies. 5-MeO DMT comes from Yopo. It's also in Bufo. Bufo has become very popular. That's the Sonoran Desert Toad that's been in the news a lot. Mike Tyson has done it, and a bunch of other celebrities have done it, and also veterans. It works very well for veterans. It brings you to a source moment. But the spirits that I've encountered, ayahuasca, she was how she looked. You know, she was just a female, looked like a female humanoid being, but she had like a silk wings that were attached to her that stretched out. I don't know if they were silk, but they were made of energy, and it stretched out into infinity to each direction. And when I first met her, my second ceremony, I was sobbing. Like I was sobbing in the physical, but I was also sobbing in the spiritual, and it was just me and her out in the darkness. Like there was nothing but me and her. And she was explaining to me how she was the spirit ayahuasca, but she was also the spirit of the earth and ultimately the divine feminine consciousness of all creation. So basically half of the consciousness of all creation, she was claiming she was, and by her size, it was very apparent that she was. But I've had experiences from Egypt, but not visual experiences, more speaking as entities from ancient Egypt, but not visual. I've never seen like any of those deities that have, but definitely contacted with them.
Mm-hmm.
And other people. It's interesting because the interview I was doing earlier today, is with a lady I've done, actually led a ceremony for her, and she's never done ayahuasca, but she's a channeler and all types of Deb Shakti. I don't know if you ever heard her, but she's an amazing being. She was in a UFO documentary that was come out a few years ago. She did like the quantum hypnotic healing on this gentleman that had a UFO encounter and stuff, and it was all filmed. It was pretty interesting stuff. Anyways, she did ayahuasca ceremony with me, and she was talking about today kind of in more detail of what she saw me as. And she saw me basically as Osiris, turned into Osiris. And that's something that's been coming up a lot for me lately, and a lot of stuff that I've been through is really starting to blow my mind. Honestly, my own like story that is starting to unfold more and more is starting to blow my mind. As the days go on. So,
Did you say in another podcast that you've actually channeled Osiris?
yeah, I channeled Osiris and also wrote about it in my first book.
What was the
Yeah,
what was the content of that channeling? Just curious. I mean,
so how it come about was we were traveling from I wasn't in ceremony, but we had done retreats in California, and we had retreats lined up in Florida. So we were in Southern California, and we had retreats lined up in a couple days in Florida. So drove all the way across the United States, and we're driving for a while, and I'm like, asked my wife, I was like, hey, can you drive for a little bit so I'm gonna get in the passenger seat, take a nap. And at that time, we had an old Subaru, had no air conditioning, had the windows down, and everything, and it's like summertime. We're driving through like Southern California, going into Arizona, and it's just deathly hot, And I'm trying to close my eyes in the passenger seat, and instead of going to sleep, I just start seeing flashes as with my eyes closed. I start seeing light flashes like in my eyes, and all of a sudden I start seeing pictures of like, and then it turns into like little snippets of video, but it's me. Like I'm really recognizing it's me. Like one of the things, before Osiris come, this is like a hour and a half channeling, and my wife like gets out her phone and starts like recording it after like 5 minutes or so. But it
So
starts off.
it was just unexpected. You didn't like tell
No,
it contact Osiris, and it just came to you.
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm never. No, at that time I've never even heard Osiris, but before he came, I was seeing myself. One of the things was, my wife was asking me, she's like, "What are you seeing now?" I'm on a whaling ship, and I just stabbed this whale, and there's like half a dozen other guys in there. We're like stabbing the shit out of this whale, and there's like blood everywhere, and there's like this debate. There's a baby for this mama whale that's like squealing, and I'm like seeing all this stuff. I'm like on this bow of this boat, and I like blink my eyes, and then I'm going. She's like, "What are you seeing now?" I'm like, "I'm in a submarine, and I'm about to hit this button. I'm a British soldier." And she's like, what are you about to do?" And I'm like, "I'm about to blow up the submarine because we're right beside the entrance to this secret alien base that's under the water." Like, this is like, you know, I don't know, a long time ago. It's not like it wasn't like current, it was a long time ago. And she's like, "What are you seeing now?" And I was like, as soon as I went to hit that button, the whole submarine and everything was teleported instantly, and we wound up on just this big flat surface on this planet. And I'm seeing like two or three different races of aliens come up, and we basically, what I was seeing. I got pulled off of the planet right before we detonated that, right before we damaged that base by this same alien race, and we become just part of their planet. I got paired up with a female, and uh, that Earth, that soldier, and this female being from this other planet had a baby, and it was sent to Earth, and his name was Osiris. And the first time I said it, like Osiris, it was it blew my mind, because Drew was still like coherent, but this he couldn't even speak. He was just in the background, and whatever was speaking, it was just constantly speaking through me. And
And your wife was actually hearing this, so
my
she would.
my wife my wife was there, and she was recording with the phone. There's no video or anything, but she's recording it, and she's driving. So, and it's on the highway, so that I still have the recording, but it's had a lot of background noise and everything. But yeah, it's hard for me to even listen to it still, because I've never heard the word Osiris. I've never been into ancient Egypt like that or anything. And when it come out of me, it was kind of like, it almost felt like spitting up something, because it, like, saying it like Osiris was just like, it was like a huge relief of me saying it. I felt that come over me. And then, fast forward everything, we got to Florida, and me and my wife's like, we go to things that we do, especially when we travel, is we go to thrift stores and just walk through thrift stores. Sometimes not even buying anything, but I'm in there, and I'm just like, I'm freaking out. Like, I keep running through this process. I got my phone out, like listening to it and everything, walking through the Goodwill, and I'm standing there in the shoe aisle, and my ears just start ringing like they're about to pop. And I look up from my phone, and Osiris skating shoes are right there at eye level, and it's neon green, like Osiris, Osiris, right at eye level. And I'm like, I had to look it up. I was like, what kind of shoe is this? Like this a skating shoe. It's pretty common, but it's just everything that happened, was, and that's when it all become just something that happened that was crazy to becoming all too real. Like it was, there was a huge validation when that happened with the shoes and the Goodwill. And
Do you generally get validation like that through synchronicities? Like, because I have that happen all the time. There'll always be like an accompanying synchronicity that seems to kind of give validity in some way to the whole thing.
Sure, yeah, I've had a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
I was going through this process one time where I was, I think it was after Osiris, this whole Osiris thing, where I was just getting spoken to in dream state a lot, and just awake state. It was just happening all the time. Just randomly. I would start getting downloads. Or I would just be talking to my wife about a subject, and I'd stop talking about what we were talking about. I'd be like, start blurting out like, keep in mind the crystalline existence in the core of your being and reconnect. All this really profound things was just spewing out of me, and it started to like freak me out, really, to be honest. And so I went out one night, and before bed, and I was just kind of like speaking to the stars. I was like, look, you're gonna have to like show something to me that, because I'm about to turn myself in. I'm a combat veteran. I did 2 tours. I got PTSD. This could be PTSD for all I know, but I'm open to it being something more. But you have to prove. I have to have some proof. And soon after that, I had a dream of finding an eagle on a dirt road. 4 months after that, I had an ayahuasca ceremony where I had the same dream. And at the end of that vision, ayahuasca said, pay attention because this is about to manifest in the physical. And I said, why? And she said, you're questioning the connection between the dream state, the visionary state and ceremony, and the awake state. And this is going to help you connect all three. And this is about to manifest in the physical. I said, when? So before your birthday, which was in 9 days. 7 days later, I had that whole experience again. And when I picked up the eagle and I looked down at the end of the dirt road, it was just how it was in a dream, just how it was in a visionary state. And, it felt like it felt like a really intense earthquake, like my body, but it emanated from my body out, and it just shook my whole being, and I realized, my voice come over to me, and it's like, this is your life will never be the same after this. This is, you're kind of anointed by the spirit of the creator, not any man or anything, but you're anointed by the spirit of the creator source.
That's very interesting. And as I listen to you tell the story, to me, I'm just completely fascinated and blown away. I mean, it's just, for me, it's a awesome. What you're saying is very awesome at this point. And I just don't, for me, I think I'd be scared to death. I'd be seeing these things and I'm be like, what is that? Is something trying to talk to me or showing me something? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, have you ever been able to, like, through intention, bring something through to channel? Or is it just more spontaneous? Have you ever attempted to?
So both. So after that experience with Osiris, at the end of the channeling, Osiris had a message for me, for my wife to give me, and basically, and for if I ever want to channel him again, was to call Osiris 3 times, and I could invoke that channeling again. And so And there was also physical movements that I had, like a movement that was shown to me where it started with me cracking my back. I was trying to figure out how to channel, and I had like just my eyes closed. And I was like, okay, show me how to get back to that state so I can channel like whatever, Osiris or whatever else wants to channel. And it started off with me cracking my back, and then I moved quicker coming back, and that movement I heard air push out from my body movement. I heard air push out of my lungs and come out of my mouth, and it said this is how you get into the state. So my channeling was when I was channeling, and to answer your question, yes, I did channel several different things, but up until a point where they dissolved and it all become one. But um, yeah, there was a specific movement that basically I moved my body until I felt enough air pushed out of me, and it would kind of just open me up to that state. And it was after Osiris. Is very simple, and I was channeling a lot of different things, and seeing different things when I channeled. I channeled Jesus, and had visionary states where I would be on the cross and things like that. And that's why I talk. I used to part of my lecture used to be I met 1,000 Jesuses over this time. That's one of the things about the spiritual awakening. It's kind of a process where, uh, if you look at it from a linear time frame and things like that, or a linear mindset, lots of times people get mistaken, and then they think that Jesus was a past life. Well, Jesus was a life that was actual man, and so that energy was a moment in time. That's why so many people can say and not lie that they've had visionary states where they've been on the cross, because it's important part of history that helps people process really what's going on now. And it allowed me to understand that, just because we can read about spiritual times and spiritual awakenings and all these amazing things that's happened in the past in these books, I think the reason a lot of us are seeing, having memories of Egypt or seeing memories of Jesus or things like that, I think it's telling us that this is just as important time that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you ever think about like the veracity or the authenticity of some of these entities that come through and channel? Do you like for instance, like some of the criterion that I use to kind of evaluate, whether an entity that's channeling, is authentically higher dimension or not, are maybe things like the concept of oneness, for instance. To me, like the concept of oneness is something that kind of, to me, suggests that it's coming from source, and
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that entities that are not of the light, to use that phrase, don't talk about oneness, and kind of distract from that. Do you ever?
I
Is there
would.
anything you
I,
use to kind of adjudicate, as to whether the entities are who they say they
yeah, I think what you just stated was exactly correct. I do agree with 100%. Um, Obviously, when this started, you know, I guess no one knows what it's like when a spirit speaks through you until it happens. I can talk about it all day, but when it actually happens, it's very scary. You have a lot of questions too. I did, and going into it, um, did my research, and best thing that I could see or um, thing to say when I started to channel was I'd only agreed to deal with spirits of light and love, and that was that's in the service to advance humanity or whatever, basically light and love. I was just light and love, that nothing else could channel through me.
are? Mm-hmm.
And um man, it was Palladians, it was Jesus, it was Osiris, many times. And sometimes I would do public channelings in Florida, where I would sit down and go to other people that channeled, and they would channel Jesus. I would channel Osiris, and like those two spirits would be having a conversation, and like
That's
uh,
interesting.
and pop in, just pop in and actually speak through us every now and then. It was almost like a microphone cutting in and out. It was weird. And then spirits, other Christian spirits that was on the wall, started speaking through my wife, and it was just it got to be pretty crazy. And I was eventually, and Drew was always coherent through all this, but he was just not speaking. He was still there. He wasn't asleep or anything, but he was and monitoring everything, and he could even interject at times. But it was when the spirit, you could tell when something else, when it would switch, and when it would switch beings. And there was a point when I was doing channeling when um, you know Osiris switched to Jesus, and then switched back to Osiris, and then kind of Drew was like, this same sounds like the same being. This sounds like the same thing, and
Mhm.
that's when everything dissolved, and um, I wasn't channeling Source anymore. I was just now I speak as Source because my heart is aligned, doing the best I can in this moment and every moment. And now I just speak for Source as an open channel that's always there, and it's kind of melded with Drew, so that that's
Mm.
it's kind of all the same thing now.
Yeah, I actually think that potentially another indicator that the channeled entity is of the light is that Drew is still conscious and is not completely because there are channelers where trance channelers where the frontal person, the main identity goes completely black and unaware of what's unfolding during the channeling, which seems a bit invasive to the point that makes me kind of wonder whether positive entities would do that kind of channeling, and that might
Sure,
be another indication of a legitimate positive entity.
sure. I mean, I think ultimately, on the grand scheme of creation in the universe, I think there's a point where there is no duality, and I think duality doesn't exist at some point. I don't think there's any darkness. I think because once it gets so bright, how could there be any darkness? But definitely, I think this 3D journey that we're in, I think that's the whole lesson of this is duality. And I think uh, stepping forward out of 3D is understanding that maybe there is not duality at all. Definitely in this 3D, it's affecting us. I think there's bad spirits, ghosts, and all these things, but I think they're meant to push us to a climactic state where we really just understand, okay, God made us all, like even the good, bad, and the ugly, and it's we're all a particle of Source, every single thing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, I think it's definitely inaccurate to refer to them as bad entities or even dark entities. I think that misleads because I think that they're absolutely part of the consciousness that is everything and are serving some kind of function overall, some kind of divine
Yeah,
function. I think it's obscure sometimes what that function is. I think that there are definitely entities out there that seem to mislead and seem to have no positive result, to what they do. But I always do suspect still that even in those cases that there's some kind of they're part of the they're part of the puzzle some in some obscure way,
yeah.
and it might not be understandable, but they're serving some kind of divine function.
Coming to ayahuasca, and that ceremony that showed me who I was going to be. I was having a conversation with the spirits. I'm like, no, you got the wrong person. I've uh, just not a great father, just all types of things where I've just fallen short in my mind. I've fallen short as a human being, not to mention things I did in Iraq and just everything. And it kind of showed me like, no, that's why you're gonna be doing this, is because you went through all that. You're gonna come out of it, and you're gonna everything that you've done negative, that's something you've learned from. And I was like, how could this be? Because how can I find gratitude in all those things? And it said, would you ever come to me and drank this, done this ceremony and met me in this way if all these things didn't happen? And I said, well, that's a deep question. I was like, and then it showed me, had this vision where I was kind of like jumping from I was like jumping from one point to another, but as I was in the air, I was seeing all these different ideas and pathways that I could have went, but I landed on whatever it was I did, like went to Iraq, or every single experience that really was a hard moment in my life. I landed on that spot. And at the end, the spot that I landed on was the first time I drank ayahuasca. I'm like, oh, so hindsight is 2020, like, to a very, very extended state. I was seeing that every single moment led me to drink ayahuasca, led me to be introduced to the spirit. So therefore, every single one of those turned from a trauma to a blessing, because without one of those moments, I wouldn't have got to the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It was just part of my process. So it allowed me to, especially everything that happened in the past, it allowed me to process that in a different way. And it took me a while to really understand that message wasn't only for the past situations, it was also for the future and the present.
So
Be more compassionate to myself, like give myself some slack, like,
Yeah, right.
now, Drew, you are a contactee, and we are talking about those different things. Are you ever told something about like what's gonna happen, or what kind of message are they trying to give you? Is there messages for other people, or is it just for you specifically?
Well, there's this common vision. It's called many different things, but people call it like the shaman vision or something like that. But it's it's part of the awakening process where um, people see a series of cataclysmic events, and there's volcanoes, floods, just every single weather and not natural occurrence on the earth happening pretty much at the same time. Um, you know, along with a lot of wars. So it's just basically a really chaotic time, and a lot of people think it's label it as the apocalypse, but it's just I guess the test is when you do see that vision, it can be the shaman vision, or it can be the the apocalypse vision. And I guess it's your choice, and I guess that's part of the process of deciphering that what it means to you. What it meant to me, like I was shown the power of the earth and what it could do, and was kind of asked to step in and like do my part in helping people come back into understanding that it is a living being, and it's the earth is kind of getting upset because a lot of us are not listening. It's starting more and more. The people are starting to connect to the earth more in different ways, not just psychedelics, but plenty of different ways. So I think it's getting better, but I think that vision is it's shared by a lot of people. And I think what it is for me is more showing the power of what the earth can do. And some of that stuff may happen, but just to know that, go in faith in that moment and to whatever's going to happen. I was shown this is why I'm out here where I'm at. I'm 8,300 feet elevation where I'm at, and I was asked several times, why I'm out here in the middle of this desert. Well, the elevation has a lot to do with it.
So
So
I do
I don't
see that
know.
on your website you do CE5 work of Stephen Greer's technique. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that real quick.
So a few years ago, well, I've always been fascinated with it since I heard about it. Went to, and it started happening just periodically with me. I started public speaking in 2019. Um, the very first event that I spoke at was on Shasta Mountain, Avatars of the Earth Gathering. But right before that, like a month or two before that, I went to Contact in the Desert, and had a mothership go over me and my wife. And come to find this is like on the third day of Contact in the Desert in 2019. And um, I wasn't speaking there, but I asked myself why I was supposed to be there. I met Clifford Mahooty and a couple other very important people I need to make contact with. So that was my contact in the desert. But I come to find out that's why I was there. And there's another story that's way too long to get into right now that happened there. But we were um, at the end of the third day. Me and my wife went back to the Airbnb where we were staying at. There's a ways outside of town, maybe 20 minutes outside of Indian Wells. And we're sitting there on these two like fold out lawn chairs. It's like, summertime. And light up a joint, sitting there taking a few puffs of a joint. And all of a sudden, all the insects that are around us, they stop. Like what the noise, they were making different noises. All these different insects were making different noises, and wind was blowing back and forth, rustling the trees and everything. And all that shit just stopped like immediately, just on the spot, like just no sound. And I looked at my wife. I was like, that was weird. And as I looked at her, I just felt something above us, And I looked up, and it was just, you could see like the stars and everything of the sky, and then this dark line come over, and it was just like darkness, like for a while. And then it just felt like it took a 2 or 3 seconds of this darkness going over. So I'm like, man, it's about to storm. Like a storm's coming in. Like these bugs are reacting to a storm. My mind's like trying to think of a physical explanation for what's going on. And I'm looking up, and then the darkness is gone, and I see this line, and then as it gets a little bit away, we start to see like the outline of this big thing in the sky. And still really thinking in my mind is probably like this huge cloud, just really weird. But as it gets close to where Contact in the Desert is, and where what I didn't know at the time was Stephen Greer and Emery Smith was doing a C5 with about 300 people at Contact in the Desert at the hotel area where they were at in the town. So this big thing like goes over that area, and it starts to light up as it goes across. And I was like, man, I was like, babe, that's a bunch of ships over there. And it starts to go back across, but as it goes back across, I don't know if it was trying to like Morse code with me or something or whatever, but it started like making lines and dots and lines and dots and different variations across. And that's when I seen the outline of it. It was like miles across. And, um, that just really shook me. And everything that happened after that darkness went over us, all the crickets started back up and all that stuff. But yeah, that whole situation had a lot of other experiences. I live out here in the San Luis Valley, which is Crestone, Mount Blanca. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm froze up, but I'm still going to go on.
We can still hear the audio. The picture's frozen, but we can still hear you.
Cool. Yeah, so I live out here in the San Luis Valley. It's well known for, a lot of stuff happening out here. There's this valley has a lot of couple meter impact craters, the Great Sand Dunes. Blanca is infamous for secret bases and things like that. So we're like 2 miles south of that. And yeah, I don't do it very often, but the actual C5s where I take people out, it's normally for friends or close family, but people that are skeptical or want to see it, and we go out and or say prayers, and usually, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can still hear
Oh,
you.
Hey,
I'm
there
back
you
on.
go.
Back now.
Yeah, so go out and play music. I play a lot of different instruments, certain psychedelic medicines, didgeridoo, flute, things like that. But just open up a consciousness field, and um, more people that are on the same vibration, the easier it is. But lots of times I've had a lot of sightings walking in after doing like a podcast like this, and walking in the house. I'm on top of my barn, my horse barn, and this is my office studio that's on top of that. So I walk from here and go in. Lots of times I see things in the sky, but we have amazing views of the stars out here. So that's one of the reasons I love being out here. Um, had experiences here with my stepdaughter a few years ago. I think she was about 15, 14, 15, 16, somewhere around in there. But she woke up the next morning. We have a 2-story cabin, and her bedroom window is facing north, and it's actually like a patio. So a door, you walk out, and there's like a patio that faces north towards Mount Blanca. And she woke up and the next day and was kind of freaking out, saying that she was looking out her window and admiring how big the moon was and everything, and stepped out on the patio and looked to the right, and the moon was to the right, and what she was seeing was this huge ball like right out in front of her window, 20 or 30 feet ball of looked like a moon, but it was right outside her window, and then it took off. But yeah, I have all types of crazy experiences, things that's happened. But the C5 is something just as powerful as a psychedelic, that experience, a real bona fide experience that you can't deny. It'll transform you. You can feel it in your body. It's something that you have a physical reaction to. I think that's why it's so important that it's done. I think overall, like what I'm transitioning into more is away from all the ceremonies altogether and just speaking. I think I'm at, what the universe is supporting the most out of what I do is speaking, and I think I'm reaching more. It's a numbers game for me of trying to spread this awareness of oneness, and unlocking sacred powers in yourself and things like that. Unlocking telekinesis, unlocking telepathy, and even open to other things that we might not even know about or even heard about before. But these are sacred energies and powers that involves all of us. And I think the UFO phenomenon, the psychedelics, everything, paranormal activity, it's all a part of a movement that's part of an awakening that's shifting people one at a time. And there's so many different facets and ways that's doing it. I think that's because there's so many different humans out there, and thoughts and viewpoints, so it's coming at us from all different ways right now.
Do you want to go into the physical encounter that you had, and maybe describe the transformative experience that was?
Yes. So in 2018, me and my wife was celebrating our anniversary, and part of our celebration, we went out and hiked Chaco Canyon and went through the main Kiva area where they did the celestial ceremonies and connecting with star beings and everything, and walked through the petroglyph area. And this is I want to add a little side note. This thing right here is a Fibonacci sequence, the energy of that's coming off of everything. People that are familiar with Reiki, it's this energy coming off your meridian points in your hands. It's energy coming off everything. But that's that symbol right there is present at Chaco Canyon in the petroglyphs more than once, and it's also present in the 6 other sites in the United States that I've been to petroglyph sites. That symbol is present in every single one of them, and it's a technology and understanding that's been passed on, and it's important enough to put it on scribe it into a wall. And I think it's all a message of like remembering the energy that we're possible to have.
Mm.
I digress. So Chaco Canyon, we're hiking there. At the end of that hike, I offer a prayer song to the Native American prayer song to the canyon, the spirits that are there, everything that happened, and left and went back to our Airbnb, which is in Cortez, Colorado. It's about an hour and 20 minutes away or so from Chaco Canyon. If you've ever been out to Chaco Canyon, you drive for a while down dirt. And if certain seasons, you might have to ford a river to get to Chaco Canyon. There's a river that goes through, and the wet season, you actually have to drive through the water to get there, but it's worth it. So we get back to Cortez, Colorado. We have dinner and everything. We go to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, my ears buzzing, and really extreme tinnitus, I guess you could say, and a slight vibration in my body. But it was just mostly buzzing. I felt like my head was about to pop.
Which that has been mentioned by abductees, and also Gary Nolan in one of his recent interviews talked about an experience where he had that same buzz occur. That's indicative of an encounter. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Told my wife I was going to step outside, have some tobacco, and had some American Spirit, loose leaf, and rolled some up. And usually I use it for ceremonies and things like that, but I've come to find that when the buzzing in my ears gets too bad at night, lots of times I've kind of balanced out over the past year or so. But back then I would smoke tobacco and just kind of ground myself and just say a prayer with it, like whatever's trying to communicate, I'm trying to go to sleep, like just know that something's trying to get my attention, but it's like, this is not the right time, I'm going to sleep, and kind of taking charge in that way. But using tobacco, like I said, now it's more kind of just all kind of come to this beautiful balance. But so I step outside, light the tobacco, and as I'm stepping out on this back deck, taking a few steps, I take like one puff, and this like the vibration in me starts to get so extreme, like I start to almost like throw up a little bit and gag. So I lean forward and spit in the grass, like just spit. And as to my left, I see out of the corner of my eye, I see 2 feet, and they're just at the corner of the deck, just like mine, but only like a foot or like maybe 18 inches away from me or so. And I turn, and as I'm turning this thing, it looks like a shadow, looks like my size and everything. And as I'm turned to look at it, my mind's going, oh, this is like my shadow. We're in town. There's a street light behind me. I turn around and look, and there's no lights at all. Like there's no street lights at all or anything. And as I turn back around, and my mind's just like going through every situation, trying to figure out as I'm turning back around, like that, those milliseconds, I look at this being, and its eyes start to open. And as what I'm seeing as its eyes opening is stars. And as it opens, I just see like galaxies and planets and shooting stars in its eyes. And it kind of sucked best way to describe it, sucked my soul out of my body. My soul went out of my body into its eyes. And that's when the very first thing I learned in this huge download that started was our eyes are portals. Like literally even humanize their portals. We really were taking in information, making a picture, and back and forth at all times, and it was just like this huge download. But every single part of the whole thing, even going through the eye, was just this huge download that was just rolling through my whole being, you know. And after a few minutes of like flying through space, flying through not only like that solar system that I was seeing, I was just going through different dimensions and just everything. It was just the portal to everything. And I come back into my body, and I just like was looking at this being, and I'm not sure if I was levitating or not. Like, you know, sometimes some part of me feels like my feet weren't on the ground. You know, I was definitely frozen. My body was definitely frozen. But when I come back into my body and saw this being, like, I was overcome with fear. And I just ran inside, locked the door, ran into the bedroom, woke my wife up, locked the door. You know, I'm like looking out the windows, like going crazy. And she's like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "I just saw, a higher dimensional being." She's like, "Was it an alien or something?" I'm like, "No, it was like something different than that." It was like past all that, because at, at that time I'd already seen Grays in ceremony before, like in a medicine ceremony, and so I've seen aliens before, but how interaction face to face was extreme. About a week or two after that, that went on. Went to bed after maybe an hour or so. Finally went to bed. I think I ended up taking a shower and everything just to calm down. Finally got to sleep. The conversation was pretty the same the next day. It dwindled down over the next 2 days to where I wasn't even talking about it anymore. And probably about a week or two later, I had a dream where I start off the dream, stand on this deck, and then I seen me come out, light the tobacco that I had in my hand, lean forward, spit in the grass, and go through that whole experience, but from the other viewpoint. And that's when I deeply understood multidimensionality, bilocation. I understood that that was another particle of myself that's coming back, visiting me at this time to give me a little boost, a one up, and also to show me that I'm not alone. All these other things. So,
So do you think it was a future, like your embodiment in some kind of future timeline that came back to you there, or because it was what,
um, yeah,
physical?
yes,
Did it seem like a corporeal physical body that was there,
um,
or
I
something that
don't,
was?
I don't think so. Like that.
Hmm.
I don't, I don't think it could have physically touched me, or anything like that. Looking back on it. But to say it was from the future would to be subscribing to a linear timeline, and
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I would change from that statement. Um, is definitely another particle of myself, and just showing me in another way that yes, you're part of source, but there is also a vast storyline that has unfolded of this creation true just as well. You know. And to add to that, I just found out recently that NASA owns rights to Chaco Canyon, especially that main Kiva area where all the circle structures are. Those were actually celestial ceremonies that they were doing. I started doing some research into the natives that were there and everything, and come to find out, I met some interesting people, but they told me that there was a ceremony going on there that was supposed to last like 7 years or 10 years or something like that, and it didn't get finished, but it almost got finished. But they were connecting points in those Kiva areas and connecting them to different constellations and things like that. One of them was Orion, so circling back to Osiris and everything. And that's how I initially learned that Osiris was connected to Orion. was Osiris's initial channeling. He was speaking to me about, because Ella was asking where's Drew's spirit reside at. She's like, Drew's spirit is operating here on Earth, but his main spirit resides in the center star of Orion's belt. And so yeah, just all these things are connecting all the time. Is just amazing. NASA also owns rights to parts of not Chaco Canyon, well Chaco Canyon, yes, and other national forests and things, but they also own parts of the Grand Canyon, where back in like the 40s and 50s, there was actually news stories that come out that was published talking about these sites that were found in the Grand Canyon, where they were statues of Osiris, Isis, and other Egyptian gods and deities that were found in mass caverns inside the Grand Canyon. This has all been erased from understanding. But yeah, NASA, and this is information, if you do proper FOIAs and everything, you can find it. It's out there that they own rights to Chaco Canyon, especially the Bankey area, and massive parts of Grand Canyon that are blocked off that you can't even step foot in.
And what's the ostensible reason that they own these places? I mean, what is the official explanation as to what they're doing there?
I haven't looked that far into it. I don't know what they say their reasoning is. Ultimately there's stargates or something, something that we don't even understand yet. They understand it. They understand probably what it does. The powers to be, and this is one thing that's coming out this year in the UFO field and all this, and for the past couple of years, is the knowledge of consciousness, the knowledge of ETs, paranormal, all these things have been known by the powers to be for, the past 60, 70 years, or maybe even more. And it's been used not only by us, but by our enemies as well. One thing we got to think about is anybody has the ability to meditate, channel, astral travel, bilocate, and things like that. And the American government's doing it on the military side for a long time. And now there's over, man, what was it? I heard an interview the other day of someone speaking. There's over 40 or something terrorist organizations that are known to be using astral travel and bilocation currently on this planet. Like there's known terrorists that are using the technology that why wouldn't they? It's the next phase in all this.
Of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, as soon as you become aware of these things, I mean, it would bring a huge advantage, tactically and otherwise. Yeah.
That's a crazy thought. I just I never thought of it. It's I talk about it all the time. I tell people, it's a technology we all possess and can use.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to think about it on that level, like it's something you really don't think about until someone says it. But
yeah, it's like technology.
But ultimately, I think that source, there's I gotta have faith that source has, a plan for that as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
So, Drew, with you're a ufologist too, right? I mean, I think I read that in a.
I guess you would call me that. I'm study it. I've,
You've lived it.
I've lived it. There's what I was saying before. Lots of times after a podcast, I go outside and see ships on the way in. I caught one. You can check it on my YouTube channel. It's UFOs over Mount Blanc. I filmed it in September, but it was over an hour long event. that happened after a podcast just like this, but it got over at 2 o'clock in the morning here. So it was a 3-hour podcast, started at 11, went till 2. And at the end of it, we were speaking after, after the live feed and everything. And she's, the host was like, "Oh man, thank you for coming on again. And it was amazing." And I looked up at the clock, and as it was 2:22, I was like, "I gotta go." I was like, "There's probably a ship out here waiting on me, And I said, "It's 2:22." I just had, just jokingly, and went outside. And for the next, hour and a half, I was just watching this display. And at one point, there was over 6 crafts that were circling around each other. But, yeah, what was going to be your question? I didn't know. What was going to be your question about that?
Uh, I'm not worried about that question now. I kind of forgot. I got wrapped up in your story there, but I can tell you this: and this is weird, and I don't know if it has any connection, but when your camera froze, I got goosebumps real bad, and I kind of felt a little nauseous. And as you continue to talk, I'm like, wow, I might have to step out of here for a second. It's just so weird and fascinating that happened at the exact same time. I don't know if it's a connection, but it definitely has me thinking now.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do the telekinesis exercise if you guys want, for your listeners and everything, and trying to, if you want, while we're here. So if you want to grab a pendulum, you can use a pendulum or a dowsing rod, and we're just going to use a lighter for the object. We're just going to put the lighter down on the table, okay? And don't worry about the flame or anything. That's really not, we're not going to light or anything. We just have the same object, so we can talk about it right now, and I can explain this, and hopefully your listeners will have this experience on their own, because that's ultimately what I'm doing here in all of this, is trying to induce you to have your own experience. You can listen to me for hours, read my books and everything, but until you have the experience, that's what's really going to change and shift you. So let's do it right now. Let's start it right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the lighter, hold the pendulum or the dowsing rods over the lighter. As we speak about the lighter, we can speak about the lighter in several different ways, but the first way we're going to speak about it is more of a physical way. Mine in particular is a Bic lighter. It's black. It's the color black. Up near the top is the word Bic. It's got a silver casing over it. It's got a red clicker that holds down for the propane. It's got a flint in it and all that. So that's one way to talk about it. Another way to talk about it would be this lighter here. Before every show, I have some Palo Santo behind me. I light some Palo Santo, say a little prayer, open up the space, and let this conversation not just be a conversation, but a sacred conversation, and almost like a ceremony. This lighter here is also lit candles for ayahuasca ceremonies and other psychedelic ceremonies we have. It's lit sage before, things like that. It also has a flame. It also can produce a flame, so it's connected to the central fire. If there's only one fire in existence, a lot of the sages talk about only one fire ever being in existence. That means that this lighter is a part of the central fire, because it can light a flame. If there's only one flame and it can light a flame, then it's part of the central fire. So therefore, it's sacred. All these things, how we talk about it, like in the second way, you might be experiencing a different reaction from your dowsing rod or pendulum. Now we go back and talk about it in a 3D sense. It's plastic. It's got propane. It's got, probably in the last couple weeks, depending on how much you use it, and it's disposable and you throw it away. It's made in a factory in Wisconsin, whatever. And the other way we can think about it, lights candles in a church when someone dies. In a Catholic church, maybe instead they use this lighter right here to light a candle in that Catholic church for someone that's passed, or a prayer. Therefore, it's sacred. So this exercise should be exhibiting different energies coming off the object depending on how we're speaking about it. And this comes from the understanding of Dr. Emoto. Dr. Emoto is a Japanese scientist, did a lot of studies. Um, a while ago. There's a book out there. It's The Secret of Water or The Magic of Water, something like that. But you can Google Dr. Emoto, and that's another rabbit hole you can go down. I've had so many copies of his books, but I always give it away. So I went through like 5 or 6 copies of his books. I can't keep it. When someone's around, I got to give it out. But because it was so transformative to me, just on a scientific level, because I'm a guy that needs proof of not only like it happening to me, but I need something tying in. I've always been the skeptic, and it's just weird that I'm doing what I'm doing, but because the universe is constantly like knocking me in the head, showing me that is real. But he did studies on water and found out that water reacted to both positive and negative vibrations. He did this by having a speech of Hitler in a room with a glass of water, and in another room have a glass of water from the same source, but have a recording of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony or something like that. And he did this test for like 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, went and checked on the water. The glass of water that was in the room with the speech from Hitler, it was visibly discolored, visibly fungus and different things growing in it. The other water was visibly clear. They put it under a microscope. The one where the Beethoven was in the room with Beethoven's speech was actually cleaner and purer than it was before it started. The other one had all types of disease and basically was undrinkable. So they kept up with these studies, even did it on rice and on other things, even fruits and things like that. And they come to find out that water molecule holds memory, holds vibrational memory, and depending on how you speak to it, it will transmute it in a positive or negative way. And after knowing that and realizing that and accepting that when I read this book for the first time years ago, I realized like we're 80% water. Our bodies are mostly water. That means the same way that those glasses of water reacted to the positive and negative vibration, our bodies would react like that as well. And this only opened me up more and more until, started to, I call this the beginning of telepathy, is starting to see how your energy can go through an object and start to move. That's why I don't even have a pendulum here and right now, because I want people to actually do it on their own. Because if I do it, the first thing they're going to say is like, okay, you're moving it. Okay, we'll put it in your hand and you tell me if something's moving or not, And when they do it on their own, they can feel the actual energy coming off of it. So the next step after this for telekinesis, and it's just not a secret, it's done by a lot of people, especially in Australia. This is a big movement in Australia right now. People doing this in schools, especially teenagers, gifted teenagers. They're sending them to these schools, and they're actually honing their skills and doing some amazing things. Seeing with blindfolds on and things like that, blackout blindfolds, and walking around. Some of the exercise they do, they're walking through a grocery store with a blackout blind and say, okay, pick out beef ravioli and a certain brand and everything, turn around and read the ingredients to me. These kids will walk through an aisle, find that object and read the ingredients off the back with a total blackout blindfold. But this is a big thing. Look it up. Kids in Australia with blackout blindfolds and driving cars, things like that. There's schools there that are like X-Men schools that are doing this shit. But things that you can do at home on your own to awaken this thing past this exercise is just meant to spark your interest on a different energy that's coming from you than what you've maybe ever experienced. But you can also set up this thing where you take a needle, like a sewing needle, put it in a cork, and on top of that cork, you can take a little piece of aluminum foil and make like a taco out of that aluminum, fold it in half long ways, make a long taco out of a small piece of aluminum foil. rest it on that needle that's stuck in the cork facing up, and so you got the cork and a needle, and then on top of that, this little taco piece of aluminum foil. And then you want to take like a mason jar or something and put over that. So you have a closed area so your mind can't say, okay, wind's blowing it or whatever. So you have a closed container, and understand that any power or energy that the earth holds, you hold, because we're really no different than the earth. Well, there's a lot of differences, but one of our things that are true is we can affect magnetic energy just like the earth can. So remember that when you're doing this process, and start to move that object, move that little taco, upside down taco, inside the mason jar, and that's how you can start to um, work that muscle that hasn't been worked in a long time. And I know I can't do it personally, but I know people and have witnessed it. People shut off light switches, open and close doors, pull out chairs, all types of things with their mind. And it's people that has really worked on it more than this, just way more than this. But this is how it starts, and I hope whoever is listening and has hope a couple people try it and really start to do some amazing things.
Well, Drew, I'll tell you, I had a fantastic time listening to your stories, and I am still just trying to comprehend everything that you said. Because I mean, you would have to do it to actually understand it. And I have always been fascinated with microdosing and how that corresponds to alien contact, things of that nature. So, unfortunately, I have not done any of that.
It's
But
just, the ceremonies, microdosing and everything just help you undo the programming. That there's a programming that's been set. So now we're starting to know that the powers that be have known about this energy for a long time. We're starting to find out about all these secret programming, secret programs that use consciousness, all in the past for, since the 30s, 40s, 50s. It's all being talked about now and open. We're starting to really know about it. And actually people are coming forward, all this information. So they have also designed a countermeasure to keep the masses, the most of those people in this bubble, that really they're harvesting our manifestation energy. Like each and every one of us that are alive has manifestation energy. We can have a dream, we can think about it and build something, and it'll come out into the physical. That's another thing. All the great uh, sages and mystics from all the time always say everything is sacred. That's how it's all sacred, because everything that we see, whether it's a plant, animal, AI, um, good and bad, everything that's in existence, even if it's physical, a chair, a lighter, it was all in someone's mind at one time, and now it's in the physical. So it's an idea that's manifested in the physical. That's why it's sacred. So everything is sacred. So we have to remember that sometimes it's harder to do in certain situations. We go through trials and tribulations that test that faith, but the trick is to hold on to the truths that we know, that when they're talked about, like if you're feeling a physical reaction, like when I'm saying something, like maybe you should dig deeper into why, just like you're doing, or what you're doing right now, in your own mind, is like trying to figure out like what was the reason I'm having these physical reactions. I think we're antennas, and we need to start trusting that more and going into it. But the powers to be have been harvesting our manifestation energy for a long time through the act of I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands. If you go to other countries, they talk about the pledge of allegiance like it's a cult, indoctrination, like thing,
That's probably possibly the primary objective, like the real thing that they're focused on more than anything else, way beyond, money and, generating
Yeah.
uh,
When you get down to it, it's hard pill to understand that we have been giving them energy willingly under the disguise of patriotism for so long. That's why there's wars every periodically, because that patriotism rises. And what do? We rally around the flag. Well, they rally around the flag too, but they're collecting that manifestation bank that we're giving to that flag, that piece of fabric. I hate to say it, I fought. There's a lot of people that in their minds have fought and died for that flag, but I never went to war for a flag. Like, I went to war because I thought I was doing the right thing. I had a call to service and things like that. I think that's true in most people, but a lot of people are, if you don't respect the flag, if you don't respect the American flag, you're unpatriotic, you're not in the club, this, that, and the other. So, especially in times of war after 9/11, a huge amount of Reiki energy, whatever you want to call it, got sent from each and every person to that flag. What's on the other end of that flag, like collecting that energy? The powers to be that are building the cages that we actually live in. The structure, 40-hour a week, 40-hour week, five work days out of the week. You might have Saturday and Sunday off. You might have a couple days vacation every year. But for the most part, you're in a socially accepted slavery that pays you just enough, maybe even a little less than to survive. And that is the design of the establishment.
Wow. That's truth right there. And it kind of reminds me of thought forms, because if you think it and enough people think it, that's creating all that energy.
That's why that's true, but that's why anyone that says there's a set number of alien ET races, they may feel like they're on the right track, but that it changes each and every time. If me and you were to say Palladian, you say Palladian just by mispronouncing it, and then a couple other people said it just the same way. Guess what? That ET race becomes a reality, because more than one God in human form, which we all are. We're a particle of God, a particle of source in human form. We got this idea that we're powerless. All that we can do is with our hands. But what the reality of it is, we're actually a particle and have the same rights and powers as source consciousness. We can affect anything to any amount. But that's a double-edged sword, because any thought that we have, especially if it's agreed upon by more than one person, and the more people, it makes it faster. It's manifested as well. That's why there's infinite amount of ET races, and they keep, expanding more and more, especially now. Now that you can talk about ETs in the public without being ridiculed like you used to 4 years ago or whatever, before the Tic Tac videos come out and all that stuff. Now we're talking about a lot more, thinking about a lot more, and it's expanding, and the universe is expanding. The universe has went through a great expansion over the past 5, 6, 7 years, just from our expansion of understanding of consciousness. Just the time that we've been talking now, the universe is expanding, because me, you, and the listeners are going through this, and the listeners are vibing with some of the stuff I'm saying. Some maybe not, but some of it is triggering things in their own self to question what if. And that's all I'm here to do. I'm here to open up the question of what if.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, because there's a lot of people that they want to know. They're trying to figure it out. So they get with people like you that have this experience, that's been through this, and can help them along. And before long, there's gonna be a big movement that you've created by helping all these other people.
Yeah, I'm like an evolution cult leader. I'm here for the evolution of humanity. I'm not one of them cult leaders that want a big following or any following really, but I just want people to open up their minds and have their own experiences and become whoever they're really here supposed to be. Because we all have a little bit of this puzzle to put together. And we need each and every one of us need to step forward, step out of um, all the stigma that says not to talk about it, not think about it. What you're thinking about is not right. Get your mind in the game. It's you're supposed to go to work tomorrow, this, that, and the other. No, like let your imagination expand a little bit and think. Go into some of the stuff that I've talked about. If you're listening to this, go into some of the stuff I talked about. If it's something that really interests you, look into it, research it, and hopefully you have your own mystical experiences that transform your own existence.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Jim, do you have any closing thing you want to ask or say?
No, yeah. I just think that being that you come from the military, I just feel like there's, some, divine reason from that, that you don't see that very often, people coming from the military, with this kind of spiritual message, that's talking about, the whole manifestation scheme, giving energy to the flag or really to, the elite powers that be. I just want to mention that, I think you're a really important voice, being that you sort of come from the military,
I appreciate that. That's I think there's a lot there's there's a lot more people that's coming forward that's doing a lot of work in this field that are prior military and veterans. And to speak a little bit about on that, not to keep dragging this on, but um, there's a lot of spiritual practices and from around the world where the medicine man or spiritual advisor of the tribe or the community either was at that time also a warrior, like part of their warrior society, or a prior warrior. So, uh, Tibetan spiritual practices speak on this. Many Native American practices speak on this, and there's many more that this is a common theme that, um, especially before people have an awakening to anything outside the 3D self, they're born with a desire to serve, and the way it is interpreted, they want to serve the most highest, most selfless way. And on that spectrum, what they find is the military or law enforcement, things like that. Once they have their awakening, then they understand that that calling was misread and misunderstood because the scope of their understanding was limited to a 3D understanding. Once it opens up, you get to see what your true calling is. So um, I think you're going to see more and more of this as the time goes on. Of people, my same trauma pattern and growth pattern and everything. You're going to see a lot more of this coming about, and I think that's just a sign that you know we're in the midst of this huge awakening, and it's time because all the warriors, the true warriors, a true definition of a warrior of it in the Native American sense is someone that's for the people, selfless for the people, things like that. The whole physical or violence aspect is not even really talked about. The idea of a warrior is more braveness of going into the unknown and all this, and a deep sense of service to fellow man.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Drew. And we didn't mean to take up all your time. We know you're a busy man. And
No
I,
worries.
I think that Jim and I could have probably talked for another couple of hours on all this stuff. It's for me, it's very fascinating. Jim is very knowledgeable in this, and you, of course, you experienced this. So between that, I'm sure a lot of people Um, a lot of people's going to have now a little bit better of an understanding after watching this and listening to you talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And if you want more in-depth talks and more in detail of what happened to Osiris, ceremonies that I've done, and things that I've experienced in ceremonies, definitely my first book talks a lot about a lot of those experiences. And second book deals with more what happens after your awakening moment. How do you integrate that divine knowledge or download that you get, and how do you integrate it into your life? That's the second book, Find Your Inner Guru. Find both of them on Amazon. But yeah, if you want to hear any of these stories more in depth, a lot of things I talked about tonight, I write about in both those books. So
fantastic. Now, if somebody wants to check out your website, what is that?
Sacred Journeys Within. Journeys is spelled with the IES like it's written behind me. We did that one. The first reason was the YS, Journeys with a YS, that website and domain was already taken. But after we changed it and started going with that, we got a lot of flack, and people are always like, oh, it's not right how you spelling it. But wouldn't the IES mean that you have ownership of? So, the sacred journeys within is people have their sacred journeys when they come out here. And, Spirit kind of named our church. But that's the name of our church, Sacred Journeys Within. You can find a lot of information about me there. We were just on a reality show too, Homestead Rescue on Discovery Channel. Last year, November 19th, we had the season 11 premiere. So the season 11 episode 111 is our episode. You can go to discoverygo.com. You can look at that episode and watch our episode for free. They come out and did a bunch of work out here and helped build my horse barn. And actually the room I'm sitting in right now, they helped build the structure here. All the finished work I did myself, but the outside and they did a bunch of work. But check us out on Discovery Channel, Homestead Rescue. And yeah, I got some other projects I wish I could talk about, but I got some film projects working and some pretty large interviews coming out soon. I'm going to be doing where I'm going to be doing just what I talked about tonight, telekinesis and unlocking our sacred energies of ourselves. So.
And I tell you, I definitely like to have you back on in the future and discuss more about the telekinesis and things like that, because that is very fascinating to me too. So yes, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to there's a lot of stuff I didn't touch on, chakra systems, things like that. And I'll leave you with this. You can visualize, most of you seen what a chakra system looks like or whatever. There's 7 main chakras, starting with the third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra on down. But look at our solar system and so the third chakra down is our heart chakra in our human body. What is the third planet from the sun, which is the earth? Our earth is the heart chakra of not only our universe, but all of our creation. And so earth is a lot older than what we know, because this is what we're this is a planet full of gods walking around on 2 legs that think they're just physical beings. It's a very, very important planet, and it's very magical, and we're about to see a lot more of it coming out. So
yeah, and interesting too that the letters for heart are in the word earth. It's like an anagram, for heart. It's arranged.
Yeah, it goes deep, man. Everything that's in existence has a chakra system. Everything that's manifested, it doesn't because everything's alive. Like I was saying before, everything that's manifested come out of someone's mind. That means it's still living because it was in someone's mind at one time. That's why it's alive and sacred, all of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you, sir, very much. Thank you for fighting for the country. We wish you the best of luck, and we would love to have you back on down the line. see where you're going, where you're progressing, all that good stuff.
Sounds great, brother. Anytime.
All
I'll
right.
meet you in the back room.
All right. Thank you, sir, very much.
All right.
Yep. You.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in with us tonight, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcasts is made available. If you believe you have something paranormal happening in your home or business, or you believe you may have witnessed a UFO, a UAP, please send us your stories, your photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments to paranormalypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social media links. Thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode, Paranomaly. Thanks, everyone.